Hello and welcome to another Blender Cookie tutorial. This is David Ward, and since the Blender Cookie anniversary is coming up, the 1-year anniversary, I thought we might celebrate. And what's the best way to celebrate? Why, with cake, of course. So in this tutorial, I'm going to kind of show you how to make some cupcakes and make them look fairly realistic. So all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Just in my default scene here, I'm just going to go into my top view and hit 5 on my keyboard just so it's orthographic. I'm going to go ahead and delete the default cube. And first thing I'm going to make is a little plate to put our cupcakes on. So I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh, and I'm going to add a circle. And then I'm going to fill the circle. And let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger here. And probably about like that. That's good. Okay. And now we'll tab into edit mode here. And I want to add some more divisions to the center of it. And normally on something like this, you might try to just hit Control R to add, slices to there, to the area there. But since this is basically just got a point in the middle, you can't really do that too easy. So the easiest way to do that is go ahead and select that center vertex, and then hold down Shift and Alt and select the whole outer ring. So now you have, well, I guess you could have just hit A either way. You have all of them selected. Now, if you grab the Edge Select mode and just hold down Alt-Shift, you can click on that outer border and it'll deselect that, and now you can hit W, Subdivide, and it'll subdivide all of those edges that you have in there. So let's do that up to about 3. And now, let's grab this guy right here. Actually, let's add a couple of more, or maybe just one more, Control R. Now we can use it since we have some more loops in here. And let's, wants to snap, but that's okay. We'll add one more edge there, and I want to bring it really close to this edge right here, because I want it to be the bottom of the saucer, the flat part, and the rest of it will start coming up. And I want a nice crease there. So go ahead and grab this edge, and I'm going to go Control E. It's going to bring up the edge menu. I'm going to go Edge Slide, and I'm going to slide that down until it's just, it'll let me. It's really sensitive there. All right. Okay, there we go. So now I got a nice clean edge there. So let's select these guys here and go ahead and drag them up. Like so. I'm going to go and make them a little bit smaller. Rather than a plate, this will just be a little saucer. Okay. And let's go ahead and kind of do the same thing up here. I want to add a nice sharp transition right there. So we'll go Control E and then slide that edge as well. That'll be good. Just scale it down a little bit. There we go. Okay. And I want to add maybe a little bit of fanciness to this. Let's go ahead and add a little ridge coming up here. Control R, and just go ahead and just pop it right there. And now we'll go Control R again, right up here. And now let's hold down Control Alt and click on these middle edges there, and then go ahead and grab the vertex select, and we can go and extrude this up about like that, about like so. Okay, let's go ahead and set the shading to smooth, and then we'll come over here to the modifiers, and we're going to add a subdivision surface. Okay, so we've got a nice smooth plate there, but it's paper thin, and we don't want that. So let's add another modifier, and it's called the solidify. And it takes just a flat, basically a 2D model, and gives it some depth. And you can change the thickness right there. You can go negative down from the currently visible model, or you can come up out of it. So positive, negative, or positive number comes up out of it, negative goes down below. And I want it to go down below, so let's put it at negative, don't want it too thick, negative 0.05. Probably perfectly fine. And you know what, let's make those sides come up quite a bit higher, so let's just select all of these guys. There we go. Let's just drag it up. There we go. Nice little saucer. And let's bring that up past the ground plane there, the green line. Just go ahead and center or set it down right there on top. Okay, so let's go ahead and name this. Press N to go into your properties, and we'll name this saucer. Oops, locked objects, wrong one. Saucer. There we go. And while we're at it, let's we'll add a color to it later on. But now what I'd like to do is, most cupcakes have little cupcake wrappers. So let's kind of do the same thing we did with the plate. We're going to Shift A, and we're going to add a circle again. And this time we don't want it so big, so let's just scale it down some. And let's set the vertices up to, let's try 64, and we'll go in. Okay, and make sure we fill. Okay, so where's this at? Right there in space, so that's fine. We'll go into Top View, tab into Edit View, Edit Mode, and let's deselect everything. And let's hit C to bring up kind of our Paint Select tool, and then just start painting every other vertex, like so. Might take you a little while. Actually, you know, one quick way that can expedite this process, just select all these guys, hit delete, the vertices, yes, and then select all of these guys, delete, vertices, yes, and then we'll add a mirror modifier that's going to mirror. If we tab out, we can see it in effect. And now that we're trying to work on top of that, plate's kind of in the way, so let's just grab and hit H, hide it. Okay, so we got our mirror modifier, but it's only doing the one way. But if you go ahead and select Y as well, go ahead and apply it to both sides. Okay, so now I can just select every edge here, hold down Shift, and just click on it like so. And let's scale it around the 3D cursor. So we scale this down, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. Make that nice ridged cupcake package. So I want to add a few more vertices, or a few more edges here, or loops, I guess, here around this to have a nice subtle transition out to the edge from the bottom. We won't really see the bottom, but it's good practice to keep the model in as decent a shape as you can. So let's do the same thing. Let's basically just hit A to select all, grab the edge select mode, Alt Shift, select there, and now we'll W subdivide, and let's add just a couple of them, maybe 3. And let's grab, you know what, okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and hit A to deselect everything. We'll Control R, add another loop here, and just run it out really close to the edge, so it'll have a nice sharp edge there when we grab the edges now. And we're going to extrude those up on the Z-axis, come way up, like so. And then we'll go ahead and let's leave it on there. Go ahead and scale it out there. Maybe a little bit bigger, and then let's just bring it down a little bit. Okay, so it looks like a nice little cupcake wrapper. However, when we add our subdivision surface, which you know I like to do, makes things nice and smooth, it kind of rounds it off a little bit, and we don't want that. We want it to stay nice creased edges. So let's select everything, and now we're going to Control E, and it's going to go, we're going to go edge crease, and then we'll bring up a little arrows thing that you can drag, and you can visually see it as it's working. It's sharpening those edges. Even though it's got the subdivision surface on it, we now have some pretty sharp edges there. You can adjust it as much as you want, as little as you want, or as much as you want. So all the way out. And we probably need a couple of more loops in here. There we go. Okay, so that's a pretty decent looking cupcake wrapper. Now let's make the cupcake itself. And we'll do the same thing. Shift A. Add a circle. Let's scale this one down. Oops. Make sure you click on fill first before you edit it at all. And we'll scale it down until it fits inside there. Okay. And we'll come up here. And we don't really need to create the whole thing. Maybe just start off about halfway. Because we're basically going to do the muffin top, basically, where it's just coming up out of the wrapper. But we need some down into it too, so we can play with it later on. Okay, so we can scale this a little bit bigger now. That's not sitting at the bottom. Okay, there we go. And we'll go ahead and tab into edit mode. And let's add some more loops to this one as well. Go ahead and grab the edge select and Alt Shift. Select that, and we'll go W, subdivide, and just run that up a few times. There we go. Okay, now select everything, And we'll go ahead and start extruding up. Go ahead and extrude all the way to the edge of the cupcake wrapper. And let's go ahead and turn this back to median point. And we'll go ahead and scale this out till it reaches about to the edges. And go ahead and scale it up some, and now scale it out some more. And then come up and slowly start to round that off. About like so. Now we can just grab our vertex select tool and just grab that center vertex there and turn on our proportional fall off right there. Just hit O on your keyboard and just drag that up. Maybe lower your influence some. Get a nice round top on there. So we'll tab back out and go ahead and set this to be smooth shading as well. Add a subdivision surface modifier. Smooth surface. There we go. Gotta actually have it selected, I guess. Okay, now we can see a little bit of an issue here where some of the breading is coming through the paper, and we don't want that, so let's just tab into edit mode. And we have, when we created this circle, we only used 32 vertices around the edge, rather than on the cupcake wrapper we used 64. So let's kind of do the same thing we did with the cupcake wrapper, so we can line it up a little bit easier. Let's select a third, or excuse me, 3/4 of this, and that guy. Okay, and we'll go ahead and delete those, and the old limit to visible is still turned on by default. I need to change that in my user preferences, I think. Go ahead and delete all those and all of these, and zoom in and get this guy too. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add the mirror to this guy as well, and the Z, or excuse me, the Y, and we need to bump this up above the subdivision surface. There we go. Okay, now just glancing at this, I can see a little bit of a creased edge there, just a little bit, but it's easy to fix. We'll just select these two guys. Actually, I guess all this top row here, and why not this one too? And we'll just go W subdivide, or W smooth. There it is. And actually, before we do that, let's undo that. We need to turn on clipping there on our mirror so the edges will stick together. Now W smooth, and it didn't want to stick there, but let me undo that. And we just need to grab all these and just kind of move them over a little bit. Okay, should be good now. Okay, so all these guys along the top, again, just hit C just to paint over it. Be a little quicker that way. There we go. And now W smooth. I still want to do it, but I'll play with it here a little bit more. Okay, and now we can just select this whole side here and just drag it over manually and undo that. Turn off your proportional editing. There we go. Okay, so it's a nice, fairly round, smooth surface now. Okay, but as I was saying, it's not really matching up with the wrapper, so what we need to do is grab all of these edges here. Just hold down Control and Alt and then Shift. Just select each one of these, and I will W subdivide, and then let's just roll around under here so we can just select a few of these instead of the whole thing. And let's just get these points that are coming through the paper. Be 2 on each one, not that one. Okay. And let's go ahead and scale this along the 3D cursor. Like so. And then we'll go ahead and move it back up. Okay. So there we go. It's coming up out of the wrapper without going through it. So that's pretty decent. Now, let's go ahead and start working on some textures. So let's Alt-H to unhide our saucer, and then just grab our cupcake here and just move it down until it's, sitting right there on top of it. About right there. It's good. Okay, so for the saucer, let's just create just a basic, let's make it blue. We'll put a new texture and we'll call this one saucer. Okay, and we'll just set the diffuse color to a nice royal blue shade there. And let's increase the hardness of the specular level, but decrease the intensity some. Okay, now that's going to be, that'll be just fine for that. Now we'll do the cupcake wrapper, new, and let's make this one, let's make it orange, but let's name it first, cupcake wrapper. And we'll make this one orange. Nice blender color scheme there. There we go. And this one needs to, on the specular level, let's turn that way down, not completely off, and then the hardness way down as well. Okay, now this one, since it's paper, it's going to need some subsurface scattering. So we'll turn that on and kind of turn on our monkey here so we can get a little bit better idea of how it's going to look. And let's put one of these presets on there. Let's try, let's try potato. And then let's set the scale way down because we don't want it to look waxy at all. So about 0.01 probably. Now, before we mess with the cupcake texture itself, let's set up some lights here. Now, you know, normally I like to use buffered shadows, but with the technique I'm going to show you for the breading part of the cupcake itself, it needs to be ray traced lighting. So we'll go to spot and just go ahead and leave it ray shadow. Well, let's angle it to where it's, turn off the, back to medium point. Okay, angle it to where it's pointing more directly at the muffin. And then, you know what, let's go ahead and turn on, actually, let's do this. Let's put another light back here. So to Shift D to duplicate that, and we'll just drag that back there. But we will turn its energy to about a third, so about 0.33. And then let's change this to inverse linear. Same thing on the main light, inverse linear. Okay, so now we'll take a look through our camera. And let's go ahead and zoom in here. And you know what? We need to go ahead and save this. So save as. I like to put it in my Blender folder. And let's just make a new folder. Yes, I want to create a new directory. Name it Cake. So let's go to our cake there, and we'll name this Cupcake. And save. Okay, so now let's do a test render here, see what it's going to look like. Rendering out our paper wrapper there. And it looks okay. It looks a little bit too waxy, I think. So let's adjust some of the settings there. Go and grab that. Go to our subsurface scattering section here. And let's go ahead and bump. This is, I don't really like to go much lower than this. Let's try 0.005. Oops, 0.005, not negative. I didn't know you could go negative on there. I'll have to play with that later. Anyways, but another thing that's kind of controlling the waxiness are these RGB colors here. So let's run this down to below 10, and then maybe make this one about 5, and just leave that one alone. Let's set our back here. Let's put that up to about 2. And let's go ahead and save this again. And now let's do another test render. Okay. I guess that'll work. It's a little darker than I wanted, so maybe I'll run this up to about white instead of that orange, yellowy color. There we go. And one more test render. Why not? Doesn't take long. Yeah, that'll work, I guess. Got some pixelation on some of that. I just have to play with the lighting settings a little bit. Sampling, this will control the amount of samples. I think there's a place to adjust the softness. Yeah, there we go. Let's put that up to 2. And now we'll see if that helps at all. Well, didn't really notice much difference, but anyways, this tutorial's not really over lighting, so let's keep going. Now, I got some great advice from old Ben Dancy, the guy that worked on Sintel, so got to give him his props. I really wanted to do some volumetric texturing for this cupcake, but I couldn't figure it out, and he pointed me in the right direction with some of the Blender documentation and kind of gave me a sample of his own so I could study it. But anyway, so let's kind of go over that. We got our muffin shape here. Let's go ahead and create a new material for it. We'll name this, I said muffin, didn't I? It's cupcake. So we'll name this Cupcake. And it needs to be a volume texture. Now, a lot of these settings don't seem to make sense at first when you're playing with them, but once you learn kind of what each one means, it makes a little bit different. Or it makes a little bit of a difference. So, first thing we need to do is set the density down to 0, and set the scattering. Let's put that about 5, and the density scale will also go to 5. And now we need to jump over into our textures and create a new texture. Clouds will be fine, but we need to change what type of cloud it is. Let's try, we can just kind of go through the list here. That's kind of a cellular type of cloud. It's kind of a, I don't know. You can kind of just study each one. And let's use the Voronoi, I don't know. Voronoi, that's what I'll say. Voronoi F2. And let's decrease the size just a little bit and increase the depth all the way up to 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and collapse that. And collapse that. Influence, we need to turn off the emission section there and set it to density. And so now kind of let's go in here, and since the volumetrics are a little processor intensive, it might take a while to actually see a preview of it here in your texture settings. So sometimes just the fastest way is just to go ahead, save our scene first. Just go ahead and do a render. And you can kind of see some nice breaded looking type of texture there. But it's all black, and we don't want it to be black, so let's set some colors on it. Just go and escape out there. And let me go over my limited knowledge of the shading section here. The scattering, that's the amount of light coming through the model. So the higher this number is, the less light there's going to be. The more it's going to have to scatter, and the more is going to make it, or the less is going to make it through. So if this scattering number is really low, then it's going to be more transparent. But if it's higher, then it's going to be darker. And I'm not really sure what the asymmetry does, but the emission is the amount of light that it puts off as, like, say you're using this for a fire. This would be, you want to set this up to be high so it actually doesn't have any shadows on it at all. It just puts out light, puts out color. Reflection is kind of, well, the color that's being reflected off of, and like that you'll see. So we'll probably want to change this to, let's make it like a nice milk chocolate cake. So we'll put it kind of a dark orange. So about like that. And transmission color is the color of the light coming through. So if you had the scattering way down, and then the transmission color would make more of a difference. So anyways, with our reflection set to brown, let's go ahead and render it one more time and see how that looks. Not a lot of difference. It's actually a lot darker this time. And I think that is because we have a color in here. So we need to play with some of the settings in here. Let's see. Forgive me, I'm still kind of new to this myself. So if we set I think we can set our reflection up. Set that to 5. And to save time rendering, let's go ahead and just put our cupcake wrapper on a different layer. And we'll just go ahead and render this now. Okay, you can kind of see some color starting to bleed in there. So let's increase that even more. Let's put that up to 10 and see what it looks like then. We'll go ahead and render out again. And that's starting to look a little bit better. Still a little bit too dark. So I want to go ahead and save this because volumetrics are, like I said, processor intensive, so Blender could crash at any time. So let's set our reflection up to, you know what, let's try 15. Just go up in increments of 5. Go ahead and save. And we'll try this render out now again. Now it's starting to take shape. Maybe we'll go up one more increment of 5 up to 20. Go ahead and save this and go ahead and render out again. Okay, so I think that looks pretty decent. You know what? I'm going to increase it even more. Let's see what 30 looks like. I think I like 30 the best. So let's go ahead and go to that other layer and grab our paper and M to move it back to that original layer. And now we're cooking. We're cooking these cupcakes. Now, a cupcake is not complete without some icing on it, some frosting. So let's put some of that on there. What do you say? Same thing we were doing with everything else. Shift A, add a circle. Go ahead and fill it in. And we'll go to the front view and let's drag it up to the top there. And we'll go ahead and tab into edit mode and grab our edges. Same situation here. W, subdivide a few times. Let's do quite a few times. Maybe not that many. Let's do 7. Okay, and now we're not going to do the mirror trick on this one, but we are going to use a different one. So let's go to the modifiers, a different trick that is, and we'll add a shrink wrap. And I want to target our circle.01. Yes, let's go ahead and name that. This is going to be the icing. And let's go ahead and name this Cupcake. And then wrapper. There we go. And we'll go ahead and save. Okay, so let's select our new frosting layer. And we have it shrink wrapped to our mesh of our cupcake itself. So it's going to stick to the surface. It's going to be on our cupcake. It's not just going to be sitting on top. It's going to be on there. So let's set the offset up just a little bit, just so we can see it separated from the surface and keep above the surface. And everything else is fine. And I want to go tab into, actually I want to go into sculpt mode. And I'm going to just kind of fancy this up. Not really fancy, but kind of mess it up a little bit just to give it that realistic shrink wrap. Oh, I need to go ahead and apply that. Oops, no, I don't want to apply it yet. Ah! Back into object mode. Now we'll undo. There we go. So we still got our shrink wrap modifier? No. Let me undo a few times. Well, let's just start over here until I undo until I can get it back to where it was. Doesn't want to do it. But I guess you can work with it this way too. So we just want to kind of give this a nice human hand created this. Just smeared that icing on top of there. It's not a perfect circle on there, so. Okay, so I want to tab into edit mode now. Let's add some thickness to our icing here. Just go ahead and extrude up a little bit. And then we'll come in here on the sides and Control R to add a couple of loops on there. And now back to sculpt mode. And let's go ahead and add a multi-resolution. Subdivide a couple of times. And let's go ahead and start shaping this to where it looks like it was spread on with a knife or like a spatula or something. Let me grab that smooth tool and let's go around this edge here so we can get a nice transition there. You know, that's bugging. Let's go into object mode and set that to be smooth shaded. There we go. Back to sculpt mode. Now then, a little easier to look at, huh? Go ahead and smooth up these edges. Okay. And now that something to add a little bit more believability to it, let's grab the F layer and just kind of run your mouse over it. It's going to kind of layer, maybe like where a butter knife was spreading this on. Let's make our radius a little bit bigger and the strength a little bit. Oops, way too big. And you can add as much detail here as you like. Okay, now I'm going to get the grab tool. I'm going to back out a little bit so I can get a bigger handhold on some of the top of it. I'm just going to squish that down a little bit. Kind of got a little bit too raised up. Okay, now let's get the old nudge tool. And let's go in here on the top view and just kind of smear some of this around. There we go. Okay, now I think that looks pretty good. Now we just need to give it a good texture, so let's go back to the object mode. And you know what, let's go ahead and bump that up to 2, and why not, let's go ahead and just apply it. Okay, so now let's add a new texture, or new material, call this Icing. And we're going to use chocolate, so this is going to be kind of a dark fudgy brown color. About like so. And specular level, we need to adjust those down a little bit. Intensity way down. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe the hardness a little bit up too. That'll probably be fine. Now, we could go ahead and render this and probably look decent, but let's add a little bit of subtle details to it that add, you know, that special extra bit of detail. So let's go to our texture settings here. And let's add a new texture, and the clouds are going to be fine. But now let's go into our colors, and I don't want to make a ramp. That's really not necessary. We just need to set the contrast up and the brightness up as well. So we get some nice kind of washed out with some darkness in there. And those are going to act, if we go back to turn on both, where we can see the final outcome there. Let's go ahead and collapse the colors there. Turn off color, don't need that. But we do need to turn on normals. You can kind of see it take effect. We want to go the opposite way though, come down into it. And now we kind of see what it's going on here. Let's increase our contrast some more, maybe a little bit more bright. I don't want it to be that close together. So that'll probably work about like that. Okay, now, like the paper, this has a softness to it, so we need to go ahead and add some subsurface scattering. Potato is too high, but let's try ketchup, except set the color back to white. Kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. Monkey head. This looks like the same settings from the paper, I wonder. No? Okay. Thought I might have accidentally messed up one of them, but anyways, so let's set, we can set this, maybe not, it's about 0.05, probably fine. And the back, let's put that at 2. And this will probably be fine. Let's go ahead and save this. Go into our front view, and let's go ahead and render. And if everything comes out right, this should look like a pretty decent looking little cupcake. It's not bad. Not bad at all, if I do say so myself. Now, we basically got our cupcake made, but we want to add some extra detail, some extra pop to our scene here. So, let's create Where do I want to go now? Let's see. Let's play with the... I know what I want the final result to look like, but it's just getting there is the trick. So I'm going into my world settings. I'm going to go ahead and turn on some ambient occlusion, but I'm going to set it way down. Let's put it at 0.25, maybe even lower. Let's put 1.5. There we go. And we'll go ahead and save, and let's see what this looks like with that turned on. Okay, that's coming okay. Coming out okay. All right. So you never make just one cupcake. You always make quite a few, maybe a dozen cupcakes or so. So let's add to this. Let's grab this saucer and let's Shift D, duplicate it, and drag it over here, and then we'll scale it up to where it's a plate in this little dish set. We'll go into the front view so we can line it up the same as the saucer. And let's grab all of our cupcake settings here. There we go. And let's Shift D, copy those over. What happened there? Oh, I must have went into flight view on accident. Okay. Don't ask me how I did that. Shift D, just duplicate a few extra cupcakes out here. I did it again. I guess it's Shift F. Yeah. Weird. Okay, Shift D. There we go. And just for some variation, let's grab this guy and rotate him around so it doesn't look exactly the same. Actually, we can just rotate, I guess, the icing there. And let's see what that looks like in the camera. It looks good, but let's set our camera up a little bit better. Sometimes I just have it point at the 3D cursor, which works, but this time I want to control it a little bit more hands-on, so I'm going to Shift A, add an empty, and I'm going to grab the camera, hold on Shift, grab that empty, Control T, track to the constraint. And now when I look through the camera, I can move the empty, and the camera will point at it, and then I can move the camera, and it'll still be pointing at the empty. So let's put this about like this, so we've got a cupcake right there in our front view, and then some more cupcakes in the background there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's have some fun with this. Let's say you got these cupcakes, you just made them, they're on the table, you told everyone don't touch them, they're for the party. But, you know, little 5-year-old Bob comes in there. I don't know, Bob. Bobby, maybe? Billy Bob. Little 5-year-old Billy Bob comes in. He wants a cupcake, so he grabs this one, and he goes into sculpt mode. Well, he doesn't really, but he grabs it and he starts pulling that wrapper. Oh, it's still got that mirror modifier on there, so let's pop back in there and go ahead and apply that. So he starts pulling this wrapper off. Don't come down too far because we'll be able to see that the cupcake's not 100% there. Anyway, so he starts pulling this wrapper off, and then he grabs the cupcake itself, and he applies the mirror modifier there too. And let's go ahead and hide the icing on the, oops, wrong one. Alt H. Hide the icing. Okay, and he grabs the muffin, or the cupcake, and he takes a big bite out of it. So let's make that look like it's got a bite out of it. Let's go in there and just get the grab tool and just push that up in there. Go center that in the viewport so I can control it a little bit easier. Okay, so he takes a bite. Let's see what that's going to look like. Maybe let's add a positive crease there to the edge of the bite mark, like so, and maybe some teeth marks or something coming up out of there. Okay, now let's go back to object mode. Let's rotate this wrapper so it kind of corresponds with the bite that's been taken out. Back to front view. Kind of see that. Kind of see this working as the way we're wanting here. Alt H, and let's now make this frosting have the bite out of it as well. Kind of rotate it around so it kind of back to sculpt mode, and same thing here. Get the grab tool and let's just push that up. Maybe kind of smear it down just a little bit. Okay, now let's add a little bit of crease to its edge as well. And let's get the thumb and kind of just smear some of that down. Grab the smooth, fix this little spot right there. There we go. And just smear some of that down in there. There we go. Okay, so that looks like pretty decent. Looks like a bite was taken out, huh? Go ahead and object mode now. Go ahead and save this. And now since the bite's been taken out, there's going to be some crumbs around on the plate. So let's grab our plate here, and let's go into top view here, and let's tell you what, let's grab everything on this cupcake and hide it so we can see our plate, our saucer actually in plain view. Let's go to our object data, add a vertex group, and we'll call this Crumbs. Okay, and now we'll go to the weight paint, and I'm just gonna paint in around the bottom of the plate here. Problem is it's going through there and winding up on the bottom as well because our solidify modifier is still on there. So let's go ahead and apply that, and let's go into tab into edit mode, and let's add, just for easiness sake, let's add a Control E. Let's add a seam there, and then we can select all of the faces on the bottom side, Control L, and we can go into our vertex group and remove those vertices from the crumbs. So now the only thing that's selected for the crumbs weight is there on the top. So okay, so back to object mode, and let's go ahead and unhide our cupcake. Let's get the bite out of it. Grab our saucer, go over to our particle. Actually, one thing we need to do first is let's create a crumb. Let's go ahead and model one. So let's just go Shift A, and we'll add. This time we'll just use a cube, and let's move it over here so we can see what we're doing. And go ahead and multi-resolution, subdivide a couple times, and then do sculpt mode. Don't need really a lot of detail, just kind of a random shape here. That could be a little particle of cake. A little cake crumb. There we go. That'll probably be fine. Back to object mode. And let's apply that. Turn on smooth shading. And since these are going to be pretty small, that's fine. We don't really need to add any more smoothness to it. So let's grab our plate again. Back to our particles. And I think I hit Control A by accident. There we go. And let's add a new particle system. And we're going to go to hair. You're like, hair? We don't want hair in our cupcakes. Well, we're not going to actually use hair. We're just using the hair settings. And we're going to go down here to the render area and set object. Let me grab this and go ahead and name it Crumb. There we go. Back to the plate. And in our duplicate object layout there, we just click on there and say we want to copy the crumb. You can see it copies that all over the plate. We don't want to copy it all over. We just want it to be on our crumbs area. So now it looks very unnatural. So we need to play with some of the settings here. Random size, for example. So adjust that way up. Maybe bring the size down some. And let's go all the way up to the top where we control the emission. We don't need 1,000 crumbs, so let's lower that way down. Let's put it maybe, let's try 30. It's 30 crumbs. And let's set it to random. And now we can control the rotation. just to be, no, let's see, random rotation. There we go. Random velocity. Okay, so we got some decent looking crumbs there. So let's go ahead and apply the same vertex, or the same volume. I guess we need to add a new one. Oh, I need to rename that. Spell check, please. Saucer. There we go. Save. Let's add a second material to this model. Let's go plus and go ahead and change that to the Cupcake. And it'll be that nice volumetric texture. And we'll go back to our particle settings and tell it to use, where's it at? Display, render, material number 2. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this. And let's take a look at what it's going to look like here. F12. Take it a second. There's a lot of calculations to be done. Okay, but it didn't put the right texture onto our crumbs there. Need to take a look at that. Wonder why it did that. Let's mess with that some. First of all, I want to get rid of that crumb right there, so let's decrease that some more. Maybe make the size a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so why didn't it put the right material 2, and this is material 2. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll pause the recorder so you don't have to sit here and watch me try to figure it out, and then when I get it, I'll come back and let you know. So, I don't even got to study, I just realized what it was. Since it's duplicating an object, it's not going to get the texture coordinates from the parent here. It's going to get it from the object. So I just need to apply our Cupcake setting to our duplicated object. So now when I go into render, go ahead and save. You know what? Also, I noticed that our bite mark that we're wanting to kind of focus on is in the shadows. So let's grab our light here and let's move it over to the other side so that bite mark is lit up. And there we go. Let's go ahead and save this now. And go ahead and F12. And it'll take it a second. See the lights on the right side now. Or actually the left side, I guess. The correct side. And any second now. I'll go ahead and pause this so you don't have to sit here and wait, so I'll be right back. Okay, and here it comes. Okay, well, we got the right texture onto our crumbs, but it's not really... The volumetrics are acting strangely because I guess it's such a strange size. So, tell you what we'll do. We'll just create a solid non-volumetric texture. Let's go ahead and turn this into that and just set this to surface and change the specular all the way to 0, all the way to 0. And we'll go into our texture settings here. Go ahead and create a duplicate of that. And we'll change the colors on here to make sure the alpha is all the way up. And this will just be the brownish color. There we go. And that's really dark, so let's see if we can't add some contrast into it. And brighten it up some. Let me just brighten this guy. Okay, so that'll probably be fine. And let's go ahead and apply that not only to not the alpha. Oh. Well, it needs to be on the color, not the alpha. Okay. And the geometry. So we can kind of get some upraised shape there. Yeah. Okay. So now, go ahead and save. Now I guess I can go ahead and do a test render real quick just to see, make sure it's going to look right. I'll go ahead and pause the recorder again. Okay, there we go, and those crumbs look pretty decent, I think. Might, pardon me, might even want to add some more to it. And we're having this issue with the crumbs going through the plate, so we might just angle the camera so it doesn't show a nice trick of the trade, kind of cheating. But so let's do that. Let's go ahead and add some more crumbs to the plate. Up here. About like so. Okay. And then we'll get our camera and drag it up just a little bit. And zoom out some maybe. Okay, so that's good. Now, we're almost done with our little scene here. There's a couple of things I'd like to do to add some realism to it. And one of them is I want to add a ground plane. So let's Shift A, add the plane, and let's scale it way up. Go into our side view and orthographic, and let's line it up with the ground. And then we'll drag it back. Let's tab into edit mode here, and let's grab this far back edge here, and we'll go ahead and go into side view, and let's go ahead and extrude it up a few times with a nice curve. And this is going to be basically our what's called an endless background. So we'll need to make it wider as well. Now you've seen me use the shadows only texture to kind of get the same effect what I'm wanting to do, a nice gradiated background that has shadows beneath it. But when you're using the ambient occlusion, it doesn't want to behave very well. So we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to go ahead and add a subdivision surface to this and set it to shade smooth. There we go. And let's create a new material for this. It'll be similar to the plates, just be a nice bright blue. That like so. And let's turn the specular all the way down. Okay. So, I think this, make sure our lights are all within the scene. I want to go ahead and use Jonathan's trick on the depth of field. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I need to go ahead and do a render before I can start doing that. So let me go ahead and render one more time, F12, and I'll go ahead and pause the recorder so you don't have to sit here and wait, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Now there does seem to be a little bit of issue with some of our volumetric texture kind of at the edge of the chocolate icing there is kind of showing some of that background through there. I'm not really sure what causes that, and therefore I'm not really sure how to fix it. I guess we can just play again with just editing our camera movement, our position there. Maybe about like that. And I guess I need to increase my lights because you can see obvious shadows there on the back. So let's get this all straightened out. And that should be fine now. Okay, so I'll render this one more time, and then I'll go in and kind of go over what Jonathan did with the depth of field. So let's go ahead and render F12, and I'll be right back yet again. Okay, so we got the background fairly decent now. Like I said, I'm not real sure how to fix the edge there, but our crumbs look nice. So now let's get ready to set up our depth of field. So let's go ahead and escape out of our render there. And let's go into our top view and grab our camera, and we'll set the limits on. And I'll just go ahead and set the, oops, not the size of the limit, but the distance. There we go. And you see the little yellow crosshairs like Jonathan was talking about. Go ahead and set that about on that first cupcake. Okay, go ahead and save. And now let's go ahead and split our window here. Now I'm not sure, I might have to render again since I didn't set the limits until after I rendered, but we'll go ahead and give it a try and see what it looks like. So in this window we'll go to our node editor and go ahead and turn on the compositing nodes, use the nodes. And let's add a output viewer that we can see our connect the two nodes there, and let's turn on backdrop so we can see it in our background window here. And you know what, let's shift space, let's put this as our whole window, and let's add a vector, I guess it's going to be a filter, and it's going to be defocus, and set the image to go to image and the Z to go to Z, and then we can output the image to each of these. Okay, and we need to use the Z buffer. And let's set our f-stop way down. Let's try 10. And there we go. So we got our background. Yeah, I guess you don't need to set the limits before you render. So anyway, so we got our background cupcakes kind of blurry, and then our foreground cupcake nice and sharp. So I think if we go any lower than this, it's going to add some more pixelated edges. Not sure what all these settings do. Gamma correction? No, that just makes it look bad. Okay, so max blur. Let's go up a little higher. No? I guess just leave it as is. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. Nice birthday cupcakes. So we'll go ahead and save, and I'll go ahead and export this image out. Actually, I guess I need to tab, shift space, and go to our settings here, and post-processing, compositing sequencer, yes. And so I'll F3, and it wants to repeat something. So let me bring up F11 to bring up the render window, and now I can F3, and I can save the image now. So let's say cupcakes, and save as. So go ahead and put that in the window again. So that's a nice, quick, easy way to get some pretty decent looking cupcakes, and you can use it for, normal cakes like a slice of cake or muffins or, any type of bready material. That volumetric texture is very, very robust and can be used for a lot more than just smoke or fire or clouds or anything like that. So, so thanks for watching. I know it ran on a little while, but I think we covered some pretty nice little techniques here. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.